The first trailer for Pokemon Sword and Shield made countless Pokemon fans unbelievably happy and excited, myself included. While watching the trailer, I noticed many secrets and Easter eggs that I'm sure that a lot of veteran Pokemon players have too. But I'm going to take this time to go through a list of 15 incredibly important secrets or Easter eggs that the trailer has revealed, which possibly many less experienced Pokemon players or fans have not noticed. So if you already knew everything on this list, well then you'll have to forgive me, but that would make you an incredibly skilled Pokemon fan. So good on you. But if you haven't seen the secrets in this trailer, then I'll be glad to list them for you. And again, if you've already seen these secrets on other videos on YouTube, well that just goes to show you that most of them were fairly obvious. So not all of these are extensively hidden, although I'm glad to report that at least one thing on this list will be something that I noticed on my own without ever seeing anyone else mention it, so either it is incredibly subtle, or I just happen to be the first. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get started with 15 secrets you may have missed in the trailer for Pokemon Sword and Shield. The first thing on the list is very, very unimportant compared to everything else. It was possibly unintentional, but I'd like to think that it was intentional, and that is that in the very beginning of the trailer, when you see Route 1 with the sign showing that it's Route 1, the sign is on the left. And I immediately knew that that is one of the small Easter eggs, that this is a region based on the UK, where all roads are opposite of what they are in places like America, and people drive on the left instead of the right. Now it's completely possible that this was a coincidence, but I'm pretty sure it was intentional because the trailer's point of view was from your point of view leaving your house, going into town. We'll come back to the regions being based on the UK later in a different number on this list, but so far number 1 is simply this sign. I'd also like to take time to mention that in the trailer there were birds flying in the sky, but they were too small to make out. So they're very likely the regional bird of Route 1 that we have in every game for this region. Number 2 on the list is also something incredibly unimportant, but I'm saving the best for later. And it is this weather vane, which not only shows a fletchling, which is hardly important, but underneath it has a circle and a crescent. And the first thing I thought when I saw that was that this symbolized the sun and moon. And many weather vanes have stuff like that, if not the cardinal directions northeast, southwest. But the fact that this is sun and moon obviously is a reference to the last generation of sun, moon, ultra sun, ultra moon. It could be a coincidence once again, but I'd like to think that it's intentional. And it's just a little callback to the previous generation. It shows that we are leaving Generation 7 and going into Generation 8. A new direction and a new region and a new adventure. Number 3 on the list is much more important to the region and to the plot of the story, in my opinion. It is all the runes and boulders and Stonehenge type landmarks that we see throughout the trailer. And in the map of the Galar region that is revealed, we see them scattered everywhere. This is another reference to the UK because the UK has many ancient ruins and ruins and boulders with these inscriptions. It has a very rich history, so obviously Galar will as well. I'm excited to mention this because it is one of the best parts of Pokemon games, in my opinion. I'm not sure what the runes signify, but based on other entries on this list, I am inclined to believe that they are some sort of language unique to this region, possibly some sort of Proto-Galar language, which may have become the equivalent of English in the real world. This strange rune-like language obviously has inspired the modern language because you could see it on billboards and in the background. So the common language you'll see on signs and such will obviously be related to this ancient runes, and I'm pretty sure that the runes will be very significant to the legendaries of this region and or the story and rich history of it. Number 4 on this list, I'm proud to announce, is something that I noticed all on my own without ever hearing anyone else mention it as of yet. For For all I know, someone else has also discovered this, but I like to think that I'm the first. And it is that the player characters have diamond-shaped runes on their clothing. The male character on his hat, and the female character on her jumper. This obviously is not a coincidence because everything in the game is put there intentionally. The runes, like I mentioned in the previous entry, is very related to the region. We can safely assume that it has something to do with the story, the plot, the legendaries. And I don't know why they're on the clothing, but these clothings are both gray, like stone. So maybe since all the runes and boulders around the region are stones, maybe the color gray has something to do with that. Of course, the style of their clothing is very UK-like, very British, which is a good thing. But why there are diamond shapes on both of the players is still a mystery, but I have a very strong feeling that while it may just be an Easter egg that it's on the clothing, it still will have some significance in the story. Number 5 on this list is the gyms, or rather what we choose to believe are gyms. I'm a little skeptical that of just assuming that they are going to be called gyms because they look so different from gyms in previous games. And while in the first trailer, the director mentioned that they want to experiment with new things while also staying true to what makes Pokemon special. So Generation 7 obviously did that by removing gyms altogether and doing trials. This region most likely has gyms, but since every gym is obviously a football stadium, which is known as soccer in the Americas, the football stadiums may or may not even be gyms. So I'm going to call them stadiums from now on, because calling them gyms or as of now may be a bit premature. The significance of these stadiums could be that they're gyms, but there's also the strange logo, the red and blue Pokeball swirling logo, which has replaced the traditional Pokemon gym symbol. So again, that the symbol is different is why I'm skeptical that these are gyms. Not only are all the gyms stadiums, even if they are gyms, the stadiums all have the same shape, albeit different colors. Now obviously they have some sort of type classifications, just like gyms in the past, because of their colors. But it's the weird logo which is more significant than the switch to stadiums, because I think the logo and the stadiums signifies a change in mechanics. Now, for all we know, this logo, because it is in the Japanese logos of Sword and Shield, is the equivalent of a new mechanic like Mega Evolution or Z-Moves. But I think it's more than that. I doubt they introduced a brand new mechanic already, because Mega Evolution and Z-Moves are already so drastically new that introducing a brand new thing may be too soon. They did promise they'd surprise us at some point, and a new mechanic would surprise us, but I still think there's plenty of Mega Evolutions and Z-Moves to be developed before they introduce a whole new mechanic. So, in my opinion, I'm theorizing that the weird logo symbolizes some sort of new battle type. Maybe it's rotation battles or something completely brand new, or maybe the gyms are completely identical except they are in a public soccer football stadium format. Who knows? There are millions of possibilities based on each individual person's opinion, so I don't know exactly what to think as of yet, but if they are gyms, they're stadiums, and the weird logo is very significant because it is in the very title logos of the Japanese titles, just like the Mega Evolution symbol was before X and Y, and the Z crystals were before Sun and Moon. Now, number 6 on this list is also very important, but it's mostly just a message. This message is that the new mechanic introduced in Pokemon Go and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee is not going to be continued, but they're returning to the classic, lovable, random encounters in the grass without seeing Pokemon in the overworld. The trailer intentionally made this very clear. Normally they wouldn't have, but they did just to make sure there's no confusion, and I'm happy to be told this, I'm happy of confirmation, and I'm kind of relieved that they returned to the random encounter system that we've seen in all the main series games. I'm sure Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee was very lovable to many people, particularly I enjoyed them as well, but they were not the classic way of playing Pokemon, and I'd like to return to that. So I'm glad we got that out of the way. Number 7 on this list is that in the stadium, where you see what is assumed to be a gym battle or some equivalent, you see the Game Freak logo in the stadium behind Lucario. But more than that, it is also written in the strange rune language I mentioned earlier. However, the rune language is so similar to English language and alphabet that they are readable, even though they're not identical. But from far away, you can tell that it's the Game Freak logo. Not only that, but behind Tyranitar, you also see a symbol very similar to the World Championship symbol in the real world. This is obviously intentional, the shape and colors are similar, but I'm not sure what the significance of that may be as of now. For all we know, this is some sort of PvP Wi-Fi thing, or it could just be in-game. We don't know yet, but let's move on. Number 8 is the landmark of the Chalkman, based on a real-life landmark in the UK. The real-life one, of course, I'm not going to bother showing because it is not PG, but it is very, very important in the British culture and history, I suppose, because it's just like Stonehenge. And speaking of Stonehenge, all the runes and boulders in this region also includes the landmark of Stonehenge in the same town as the Green Stadium. But the town with the Green Stadium, not only does it have a Stonehenge equivalent, but it also has a Chalkman equivalent. But most people are theorizing, and I tend to agree, that the Chalkman in this game will most likely symbolize some sort of legendary or possibly pseudo-legendary Pokemon. We don't know yet, but I'm not sure if it's a human or if it's a Pokemon. But I tend to agree that it's most likely a legendary Pokemon. Or some other Pokemon. But if those are people under its feet, then it is massive and very scary with its fire electric breathing effects, which I've even heard from some people that it could be symbolizing the original dragon that split into Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem, because it has both what appears to be fire and electricity coming out of its mouth, with a similar tail to Reshiram and Zekrom. But we have no way of knowing as of yet. For all we know, this region is the region that colonized Unova before it was formed, since if we're going to assume Unova is based on America, specifically New York, then it would make sense that it was colonized by the British, or, in this case, the Galar region. So for all we know, the original dragon that split into Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem came from the Galar region. Other connections of the Galar region with other regions I could mention, but it was not really a full entry on this list, is that Melmetal possibly came from this region due to its metal powers, and saying it was worshipped for creating metal, and this region is very, very industrial and steampunk themed. So yeah, this region possibly has connections to the original dragon as well as Melmetal, and maybe even more in the future. Number 9 on the list is a tiny, tiny Easter egg, not really a secret, but not everyone possibly knows this, and it is that the 227 on the back of your football jersey shirt in the scene where you go into a stadium all dramatically and such is obviously representing February 27th. Not only is that the anniversary of Pokemon's birthday, but it's also the date this year where they chose to release the new trailer on the Pokemon Direct for Sword and Shield. So 227, it's a fun Easter egg. Most people probably figured that out after a while, and it's not really too significant, but I think it was kind of cute how they included that there. Also, I'd like to repeat that the shirt also has the weird new logo, the red and blue swirling Pokeball, which I don't know if it's replacing the gym symbol from previous generations, or if it's representing a new battle type, or if it's completely new mechanic equivalent to Mega Evolution or Z moves. We still don't know. Number 10 on the list is something that I've noticed for years, and you've probably seen other YouTubers mention them as well, but I myself have figured this out on my own years ago, and that is that the Pokemon games, for the most part, follow a red and blue pattern in their logos. Pokemon Red and Blue were the originals, but then Gold is warm like red, and Silver is cool like blue, and every game since then, excluding Black and White, unless you want to consider Black and White a warm and a cool color, although I don't know which would be which. Every game logo has had a similar to red and similar to blue color scheme. Or as I'd like to say more generally, warm and cool. So warm games would be games like Red, Gold, Ruby, Pearl, Y, and Sun. While cool games would be Blue, Silver, Sapphire, Diamond, X, and Moon. And now obviously Sword is a cool themed color and Shield is a warm themed color. And they've continued this for a long time. I'm not sure why Black and White had to break this trend, but it is not even really that important. It's just a tradition, I suppose. Although it's strange why they chose to make the Sword a blue color and the Shield a red color, because you would think that the warm hot color of red would suit the Sword and the passive blue cool color would suit the Shield, but they can do it any way they want, and maybe there's a reason. I'd also like to mention the wolves on top of the Sword and Shield, because those are more than likely legendaries of this region. Maybe there's only one wolf Pokemon, or maybe there's two equivalent wolf Pokemon. I don't know what their relationship is to the Chalkman, which may or may not be a legendary. I'd like to assume that the wolves are Pokemon, but I don't know if it's one wolf or two. Now, number 11 through 13 on this list deal with the starter. Starting with number 11, Scorbunny, the Fire-type starter. I'd like to analyze its theme and what it seems to be based off of. Now, it's not just a bunny, its name is Scorbunny, which the first thing I immediately noticed is that it represents or resembles a soccer player or a football player, if I'm being correct. It represents a football player because it's like white, like a football uniform. It has the thing on its nose and its feet, representing what most athletes wear. But officially, its name is meant to be implying Scorch Bunny, because it's a fire type. And I tend to agree, it does sound like it should be Scorch Bunny, because it's based on Scorch. But I like to also think that because it's based on a football player, that it is also score. So it's like two meanings in one, which is very clever, and it's a weird coincidence that the words scorch and score both apply to it, but I still like to think it was intentional. So whatever it evolves into will more and more resemble a football player. Hence the name Scorbunny. Number 12 on the list deals with the grass-type starter, Grookey, the chimp Pokemon. Now, most people have just taken it for granted. I've heard one person think that it will be a cricket player because of its stick, which it seems to hold on top of its head in those leaves. But I disagree. I think Scorbunny is the athlete, and Grookey has been intentionally designed to become a musician. When it evolves, it'll be more music themed because its name is directly inspired by groove and monkey. And groove is not the only way. If you look at its other international names, you find references to music and rhythm and pep. So all of its names internationally, in some way or another, reference movement, music, or rhythm, or groove. So it is not a coincidence that in the first trailer when we see Grookey, it was beating a rock with its signature stick. That stick will also evolve with it, most likely into some sort of musical instrument, because it is its, signature object, like many Pokemon seem to have, like Oshawott Scalchop, or, for example. So I disagree that it's going to become a cricket player, because Scorbunny is the football player, and while cricket is very British, I think football is more modernly appropriate. But getting back to Grookey, it'll become a musician because it is in its name. It is a groove monkey, or a rhythm monkey in other languages. And it was playing music on that rock in the trailer. Number 13 on this list deals with Sobble, the water lizard starter. Now, it is a very adorable boy, and it is directly meant to represent a coward or some sort of sissy, because in its names it has terms like sob and coward and sissy in its international names, like I mentioned with the other two starters. So I don't know what it will look like when it evolves, and its theme isn't so clear as the other two, because the other two are obviously a football player and a musician. I don't know what it'll look like, but since it's neither a football player or musician, all we know so far that it is a coward that cries a lot because it's timid, and I find that very endearing. I haven't chosen which one I'll choose, but I feel so sorry for Sobble. I just may choose it just because of its personality. As we're approaching the end of this list, we've reached number 14, which is a generalization of all the things to do with the UK in the trailer. The Galar region is clearly inspired by the UK because of all the trains and the industry and the cities and the steampunk theme and the agriculture and the fields and mountains and the shape of the region itself. Not to mention references to royalty and crowns and castles on flags and on the map. Not to mention London clearly being on the map because of you can clearly see Big Ben and the London Eye, and possibly the big building in the middle could be a reference to the Shard. So it goes without saying that the Galar is based on the UK, and there's also stuff like London and industry and trains. Trains may have something to do with what the region represents, it may have something to do with the plot, and it is clearly the best way to get around long distances, just like in the real UK, because there are trains all over the map connecting the cities. And finally, we get to number 15 on the list, which was possibly not an Easter egg, but in my opinion, I'd like to speculate, and that is the underground scenes we see in the mines, where we have rails and lots of beautiful gemstones, and it looks like it'll be some sort of mini game where you mine those gemstones, although that could just be me reaching, because I like to think that this is a reference or Easter egg to the underground in the Sinnoh games. Back when I played Platinum as a kid, I was so much enjoying digging for gemstones in the underground under Sinnoh. So just like the weather vane represented Sun and Moon at the beginning of the trailer, this underground mine with the crystals could very well be a reference to remakes of Diamond and Pearl, the Gen 4 remakes that everyone is expecting after this game. It is not a given, it is not guaranteed, and I may very well be wrong, this could be a coincidence, but in my headcanon, I'd like to think that this in the trailer was representing just an Easter egg to Diamond and Pearl, because the underground is a very signature part of the Sinnoh region. And I hope I'm not wrong. That's it for this list. Thank you guys for keeping up with me. I apologize if you disagree with any of my assumptions, but I'm really proud to notice all these Easter eggs and secrets. I hope I surprised you on some of them. I'm just happy to report all the things that we can expect in Sword and Shield, because they look so incredible because they're on the Switch and so exciting, that I'm expecting more from them than from Gen 4 remakes, which I was excited for years now. I'm actually more into this new Gen 8 game than I'm, because it's just brand new and it's something that, we have been waiting for a long time. So, I've been talking long enough. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to share with a friend and hit that notification bell, as well as checking out my channel for more videos just like this. And I'll be covering Pokemon Sword and Shield continuously every time something new is discovered. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time. Bye.